So how to follow that? You know, someone who doesn't stick to the script and ad-libs all his way through, and then I'm coming up here with my carefully thought through notes. However, that's what makes the Commission, I think, so wonderful, that we are all very different and we've all got different styles of working. But the real privilege that we've had this last 18, 20 months or so is the opportunity for us as commissioners to work together, along with the executive and all the support that we've had. And regardless of where we've come from, what our background has been and how we've come through local government, we all care deeply, very deeply, about the future of local government and its importance to the people that we serve. So when you're working in that kind of environment, there's certainly lots you can agree on and lots you can find to disagree on as well, actually. But it was great. It was really, really good work. So much of the report that you have is full of really rich content. And when I was reading it through earlier this week, it was actually a real pleasure to rediscover some of the material and the issues that we had come across, that we had discussed and debated over the last 18 years. And that's why it's over 100 pages. Did we think we were doing something that was going to be over 100 pages? No, I'm pretty sure we didn't actually when we started out. And what that report covers is the impact on different groups of our residents, and also from different perspectives, whether it's from the economy, from the environment, or even how we organise ourselves to try and do the very best for the people that live in our nations within the UK. I also want to thank my Commission members for bearing with me. One of the things I was very focused on, and this goes to my background and work that I've done, has been about getting the voice of young people into our work. And there is a good piece of content within the report on the views and the voices of young people. And I was quite clear that we would not be a proxy for young people. We would not be saying what we think young people think. We would actually go and speak with some young people and get their views directly from them in the way that we had asked everyone else, and we did that. So thank you very much for indulging me in making sure that we actually did that, because I certainly harped on about it at great length over the period. I will stick a bit to the script here. But just before I start to say a few words about the slide that's in front of you just now, I did want to say a few words about COVID. When we started this, COVID wasn't on our horizon. We weren't really thinking about it, and obviously it came and it took things away from us, not least the ability for us to meet in person. And this is actually the first time I've been in the same room with all of these guys since a year past in February. So it's lovely to be back again and seeing them all for real. And Gary, you haven't aged much in that time. But what I wanted to say about COVID is obviously there's been lots of negatives. And a couple of the things that I wanted to raise was about inequalities, because that's the area that I'm going to talk about just now. And what we have seen on the back of COVID is not new inequalities, but a deepening and a broadening of the inequalities that exist in the UK. Whether it's access to services, whether it's lower or cuts in income, whether it's poverty, whether it's digital exclusion, it's worse, it's deeper, it's more impactful, and it's also broader. There are more people impacted now as well. So that has been a clear sign or a lead-in, I think, from what we had, which was a decade of cuts which have impoverished local government. But there's also been some positives, really, really good positives. The importance of people, what they could do, what they believed in, what was important to them, their resilience in managing something that none of us had ever had to manage before, none of us had expected. We've continually had to reassess throughout the whole period about how best to do this. And also the importance of place and people's view about the place that they live in, how they want it to work for them. Another positive has been the relationship between communities and councils and individuals in those communities. And we heard a lot of that during the time that we were taking evidence, and I've seen a lot of that through other work that I do as well. But that relationship about, right, how can we do things better? How can we deal with this incredible situation that we're working with? And there is something really, really strong that we need to build from there. I wanted to quote just a few of the bits of information in the report, which, when I read them again, still feel to me quite appalling as a marker of the society that we're living in and trying to provide services to. 14.4 million people living in poverty. That's horrendous, absolutely. I mean, any number's horrendous, but 14.4 million is almost unimaginable. 4.5 million children are living in poverty. That's about a third of the population of children across the country. And 4 million people with disabilities are living in poverty. What kind of future is being created? How do we really expect to grow our economy, to grow a healthy and wealthy nation when so many children and young people are living in poverty? And that has influenced a lot of our findings and our recommendations. This slide, I'm not going to read it out. As Gary said, you can all read these slides yourself. But I suppose there's also issues in here around, in a lot of cases, inequalities don't affect people just from one aspect or through one lens. I've been doing some work recently on the intersectional nature of inequalities, and absolutely COVID has highlighted that in a way that it wasn't highlighted before. So it becomes very individual and very personal to people in terms of how those inequalities affect them. And there's a real strong role there for local government to help to respond to that as the arm of government, as the part of our public services that can really reach out and connect with people. Young people have been disproportionately affected as well. And again, another wee fact from the report, £2.2 billion has been cut from children and young people's services since 2012. That's an incredible sum of money for those young people who are creating our future, who are going to be our future citizens, our future voters. Why are we doing that? The third sector, the voluntary sector, has been impacted significantly. There are far fewer grants available now. Much more of it is done through commissioning and procurement, which is very difficult for them to respond to. And 40% of charities are now in a much worse financial position than they were before COVID. Local authorities have a big role to play in being able to reduce some of these impacts, being able to reach out to people and to be able to work with people to address them. But they can't do it on their own. And that's what I was saying, one of the positives of COVID is the way in which local government has worked with others and have tried to tackle things in a different kind of way. Lots of bureaucracy was just cut right through very quickly to allow things to happen on the ground right there and then. Those are good, positive steps that we've taken, and we need to build on those. So we are calling for a different type of community planning. This is the time to refresh that, the time to really rethink how we work with our communities, but also to hear very directly from those communities and to understand exactly how this has impacted them. Recovery needs to be focused on not just the economy, but from thinking about how the work that we have done, what we have put in place over the last 18 months can actually be used as the basis for our economy in the future, so that our economy becomes more about the foundations of what needs to be in place to live a healthy and good life, and much more about how much we care, which is what local government in essence is often about. Looking at some of the recommendations in this section, they are based on a common principle, and that principle, which is built from the title of the report, Local by Default, which is about building up and out and really focusing on community empowerment and listening to people, and that principle of community engagement underpins how we can work. It provides councillors with a different role. It provides councillors with a very strong leadership role in their local communities. We are recommending that we look to the long-term impacts of our decisions, of how councils work with young people, how they hear what they think about what needs to happen. I've done so much work with young people, and the one thing I can say is that I am never disappointed when I work with them. I am never disappointed in their ambition, and I am never disappointed in their ability to see beyond their own sphere of thinking, beyond their own set of services and into those services that really impact and affect other people. But I also think this is not just a call for local government, this is a call for government overall. And I mean, I couldn't put it better than Gary put it earlier on in terms of who understands what needs to be done, but really, national government really needs to think hard about how they're telling us what to do and stop it. So the final recommendation on that particular slide is very much about being clear about inequalities. We are talking about taking the public sector equality duty in a much more serious way, taking it forward in a much more serious way, but also being clear about the interacting and intersectional inequalities that exist across huge swathes of the people that live in our communities. And I'll finish in a couple of minutes. This is the final couple of recommendations. I said that there's a real role for councillors here, councillors as civic and society leaders. We are calling for councillor budgets, place budgets that allow councillors to really work with their communities to do really important things in those communities. And when I look around, I can see evidence of sometimes it's just something pretty small, maybe £2,000 or £3,000 that just makes a massive difference to that community. And sometimes it can be something that's 50,000, 100,000, whatever. We need to find a way to help that happen. And councillors are right at the heart of that and right in the front of that. And we're also advocating for councils using the council pound to buying local and to support an inclusive economic growth and community wellbeing. Now, we've heard many examples, really been impressed by some of the great work that's done in a number of authorities across the UK to create a different type of approach to the economy. An approach that's very local, that recognises that it's not all about big business. Local, small business is so important, and it reflects the importance of well-being, local well-being, individual well-being, and sustainability as well.